If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and
Make a change.
Ooh! I'm in there. Ooh! Da 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 da. I would be jamming up there in the second.
Yeah, you got like one glove on,
yes.
and you're just fucking.
Didn't have the gloves. Did not have the glitter gloves, but like those moments meant a lot to me.
Today, to hold you episode 5, I'm here with NCAA champion, collegiate wrestling champion, Kyven Gadson, 2015?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm literally on your Wikipedia page right now.
Not the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia page, like I actually I get slack at that from at work sometimes. They're like, "Oh, you have a Wikipedia. Don't worry about it." And I'm like,
No, I just thought I would Google you so that I got some of these things correct, but I forgot. That. I knew this at not that long ago, but I forgot that you beat world champion gold medalist Kyle Snyder in your final college match, right?
Yeah.
To win the title.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's even bigger. But I feel like that whole season, you were on a path to that. Did you write that letter? Like, I'm going to ask you about that letter today too, which I think you know what I'm talking about. Did you write that at the beginning of the season or before the tournament?
No, so I wrote that the Wednesday before the tournament, but I wrote it on the way. I wrote it physically on paper the Wednesday night before the tournament, before I went to bed, kind of as like a last touch point for myself. On the way to the tournament, we traveled by bus because I think it was within 750 miles or something. It was like the NCAA has a rule about how you travel to NCAA championships. And so Ames, Iowa to St. Louis is within that realm. So we traveled by bus. And so on the bus trip down there, I started typing it on my iPhone and then got to the hotel Wednesday night after the final preparations were done. And that was like my last touch point to myself, that I was ready, I was prepared, and I was going to go take it, not leave it up to chance, but I was going to go out there and just wrestle with free energy.
I think there's a big difference in mindset, and why I brought that up. I didn't plan on bringing it up this soon in the show, but reading about your opponent there really made me think, like, when you get to these very top levels, he was on his plane ride or whatever, maybe writing his own letter to himself, like fully planning on taking that. Obviously, he went on to have an incredible career, but when you get to the very top, knocking off that last 1 or 2 or 3 motherfuckers gets to be a real problem. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Elite mindset. So when I heard about this letter, and people will know what I'm talking about, I can kind of point to that, but it was just a letter you wrote to yourself, like, about how it was kind of meant to be and how you were going to win this, and God is your strength and this and that. And I was like, okay, that's definitely like, you almost have to go all the way to a whole different place when we're talking about elite performance versus the mindset of everyone else that's kind of showing up that day. The people that are there to actually compete for the very top, I feel like that elite mindset is different, almost crazy consumed.
Yeah. Obsessive, right?
Yeah.
Like I think we've heard that.
It's almost what's required is obsession.
Yeah. It was. I was very, very locked in on that goal in that period of time. Just from like a detail standpoint, like every single detail, whether it's what I was putting in my body, whether it was how I was spending time. Like I lived very, very much below my means, I would say, in terms of I didn't have Wi-Fi at my house. I had a VCR and a DVD player.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't have Wi-Fi. So what I would do is I'd go to the library and I'd rent DVDs or VHS and, like, watch, like, The Godfather. But I didn't have Wi-Fi. It was very simple.
This is probably a hack for some young athletes that
No,
want to
like,
do
it
well.
was-
You weren't getting distracted.
Wasn't-
Having some DVDs is totally different than having the entire internet at your fingertips and people bugging you. And,
Yeah. No, for sure. And so like I got rid of everything that essentially didn't matter. Like my routine was pretty simple. It was church, workout, recover, eat, wrestle, and then kind of repeat in that way. Sometimes you take a little bit more, sometimes you take a little bit less, but I was very locked in during that period of my life, and uh, I enjoyed it. I was really having fun with the process, and not just fun, but I was experiencing every part of it. You know, like the tears, right? No one talks about the tears when you're just trying to get to a place of like eliteness, or to perform at a high level. So there was practices where like I emotionally shut down. There's practices where I would be extremely excited and like, oh man, like this is gonna be a great practice. I can just feel it. And then there was practices where I'd be mad and things like that. So there was like I experienced the whole, I guess you can say, array of emotions in that period of time, and I'm super appreciative of that. And like I wrote everything down. Like my journal had, I I have a problem with sugar. I love sweets, and so for me, I knew I was honest enough that if I ate a box of Mike and Ike's or a whole row of Oreos, I would have to write that down, and that doesn't feel good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like if you have to look at yourself and write something down, and you're like, oh, like why didn't you accomplish your goal? Well, my boy, you had like a whole bag of Oreos, or you had a whole box of Mike and Ike's, and so those were the things that really helped me. I didn't have social media; I had deleted it, so it's just like simple things.
Did you have to cut to 197?
245 in July of 2014.
245?
Yeah,
Wow.
and then made it down. We'll walk around at like 210, 212.
I never, my first introduction to you was years ago, just seeing you in press or whatever. Like, because I never to this day, sorry, don't like super follow college wrestling.
Yeah, that's all right.
I only get into following jujitsu because like of seeing new techniques and strategies and stuff
Yeah.
people are using. I just don't follow that much. But I saw you and then I saw, I think one of your matches or at least a clip from it. I'm just like, that dude is jacked. Because you're a 197. I was like, man, that's a scary looking 197.
Yeah.
But you were coming down from like 240 something.
Yeah, yeah, no, like it was something where I had to be very diligent about how I approached the process, and I was feeling like that was something I missed my junior year. I wasn't as focused, I believe, for a multitude of reasons,
And how
but
did your junior year come out?
I took fourth.
And see, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Is the difference between beating those last three or so
yeah,
like that's so much different focus wise. Mindset is actually different
yeah.
at the top of the podium.
You know, it's serious because like if I look at my college career, I was 90-11. So I had my one loss my freshman year when I tore out my shoulder in the match in Hilton Coliseum versus Oklahoma, and then so 0-1, season's over. I'm actually thinking my career is over at that point. But then over the next 3 years, so from 2012 to 2015 when I finished, I went 90-10. Five of those losses were to the same person. So that same person was Scott Schiller from the University of Minnesota. And I don't, in my heart, I don't ever believe that he was like a better wrestler or like knew how to wrestle better than me, but he knew how to show up. And he showed up with like a focus and intensity that I wasn't matching. You
Hmm.
know, like my sophomore year, the week after my dad died, we wrestled for fifth place. He beat me. Then we wrestled again the following year at the Cyclone Open, first tournament of the season, so probably like the third match of the season. Are you in great shape at that point? I don't know, but he beat me there. Then we wrestled in the Southern Scuffle finals, and that's junior year, so 2014 January. He beats me there, so I'm 0-3 against him. We have him in the dual meet in 2014 at the end of the season. I beat him. right? So I'm like, oh, I got him. I got his number now. Like, right, I
How'd you
figured him
beat him?
out.
Points?
Yeah, 7-4. But like, I controlled the whole match.
Yeah.
And then quarterfinals at NCAA my junior year or our junior year, he beats me. And then he beats me again for third place. So I'm 1-5 versus this dude.
He beat you twice at NCAAs.
Yeah, our
This
junior
guy's
year.
like a serious rival all of a sudden.
Yes.
He's
And
gonna
I'm like,
he's gonna take you out of the winners bracket and then see you again in the
yeah.
like already you've had 4 matches. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And so like our senior year, we wrestled at the Cliff Keen, Las Vegas, and I just felt different.
So he was in the same graduating class as you. So you had to take him out.
Yeah, had to. It was so necessary. So like
He couldn't graduate his way out.
No.
But something interesting here is what you're saying is that you have a rival that he would show up all the time.
Yeah.
And that must wear on you in a certain way. Like, what if in your mind, and what if in reality you were more skilled than him? Mm-hmm. And it was just the fact that you had to kind of learn something from your rival there in order to get over that hump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was. Like, he always, from what I remember from him, he always was very intense and focused, and he wrestled hard all 7 minutes. Like, there was never really a let up. And I would pick my spots. Mm-hmm. And when I picked my spots, I would score, but because he was consistent the whole time, like he'd get scored on, he'd get out right away. I would get scored on and he'd ride me for 30 seconds or 45 seconds, and like that's an issue, right? Because now he's taking energy from me, and so I think the biggest difference between the times where I won and the times that I didn't is it was more consistent. And then, so I beat him at the Cliff Keen, Las Vegas, our senior year in 2014. That was like a December tournament. And then after we got done with college, we wrestled at the Olympic trials in 2016 in Iowa City. And I beat him probably like 12-1, like tech falled him. But like there was just like, it was 2-2 or 12-2 or maybe 13-2. It was 2-2, and there was just like, it was like a barrage of points. Like when I tell you, like it was like I scored, then I scored again. He tried to score, I scored off that score. Then I went and scored again, and then I went and got a double leg and like really just like ran him off the mat and threw his legs out from underneath him and got a 4-point, and like that was the match. But it was like all in like a minute and a half. It was just like boom, boom, boom in freestyle. But like that's the difference between freestyle and folk style. Like
I feel like you were more skilled than him, but you really just needed to match his tempo.
Yeah.
And apply that with the skills you already had.
Yeah.
Fit more in.
It's an interesting. I mean,
because once you started fitting stuff in a freestyle situation, everything just became scoring for you because like you had that upper hand.
Yeah.
But it's tough when somebody's just relentlessly coming down, especially jiu-jitsu guys. We're not used to it. Because we can just be lazy, way lazy. Because when you're talking about lazy, or not lazy style, but you said you like to pick your shots, but still you guys are nonstop moving, out there. You can't let up in a combat sport like that. Especially wrestling, you got that extra, people are extra explosive and they're like using all their strength all the time. And it's a very exhausting sport.
It is.
What'd you do for conditioning? Mainly just wrestling?
No, so obviously you do the strength training. Coach Bo was my strength coach. He did an amazing job of just helping me stay healthy in terms of not getting injured in the weight room. I think that's like a key importance. And then obviously our trainer, Tim Wiesner, was amazing too. Spent a lot of time with him just getting your body feeling good so that when you go into the practice room, there's a lot of prehab so that when you go into the practice room, you'll feel good, right? Like, and so I spent a lot of time on the track, hated the track, but did a lot of sprint workouts. And then because of the weight cutting aspect of it, I hated treadmills with like a passion. And so I would go play basketball for like 2.5 hours. like after our evening practice.
Okay.
So
Is that just to keep weight down?
just to keep running, stay active. So yeah, like those were the things that I like focus on, because like it was like, oh, you'll be moving and it'll be like spurts, but it won't like, it shouldn't hurt you. You know, like you shouldn't get hurt unless you do something like crazy, which every once in a while, like in a college setting, like if you're at like lead rec, you got guys that are coming in hooping, and like I'm a wrestler hooping, so wrestlers usually have questionable basketball skills, but you got guys that are playing in lead rec like it's the NBA finals. I'm like, yo, like you can't do that. Like if I get injured here, we're gonna have a real issue. So like I would always shut it down in like February, mid February, early February.
Oh, just so you wouldn't get hurt or anything.
Yeah, because like that, like I remember, I remember getting injured one time, and the trainer was like, "Well, what happened?" I was like, "I was running."
He's like, no.
like
I was running, caught an elbow.
I was running,
Yeah.
and you know, it involved some cutting. You know, like, but like it's like you can't, like, this is your job essentially. Like you can't get injured. You know, like in the NFL players and things like that, like they have like in their contracts now, like if you get injured doing something else, you like forfeit.
Yeah.
You forfeit your money. You know, so
Well, they didn't. I don't think Iowa State and the good taxpayers of this state, you know,
it's not at that level for sure.
That scholarship you were on, it's got to get ROI.
It's definitely not at that level, but
It's not at that level, but obviously you took it to a high level. And they named an ice cream after you, right?
yeah. April of 21. Well, the plan was you make the Olympic team at the beginning of April. You have it's like a ice cream ceremony after, but lost at Olympic trials, came back and made the Olympic national team, and was the second Olympic alternate for Tokyo, but just didn't do enough, I guess is how it.
But you still got the ice cream.
Still got the ice cream
Yeah.
this time, yeah.
Yeah. Championship.
Championship, right? Yeah, Kyven Gadson.
Yeah, that's
Quality
only
stuff.
available in Ames.
Yeah, at the Iowa State University
Iowa State
Creamery.
Creamery. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. And it's funny because you were fighting your sweet tooth to even get to 197. But
Yeah.
then what you got out of that, now you have an ice cream that you always get for free, right, when you show up?
I don't.
Son
I do
of a
not.
gun.
Yeah, I was still learning business.
And they are using your name for free?
Yeah,
Wait, hold on.
Retroactive NIL.
Hold on. We got to renegotiate.
definitely was like, because I tried to get the company out in Western Iowa, in Lamar's.
What company's in Lamar's?
The big one.
Help us out.
I know what it is. I'm not giving them free.
Oh, you're not. Oh, you don't want to say what they are.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a quiz? Because I don't know Lamar's.
So it's
businesses.
it's like
Gotcha,
basically Iowa's
gotcha.
brand of ice cream. But like I wanted to work with them right after NCAAs. It was like, all right, after NCAAs, like they came to some things for me at the Dan Gable Wrestling Museum in Waterloo.
Oh, yeah.
Even at the Iowa State University Alumni Association, like tailgate, and like during football season in 2015, they came and they like brought ice cream, but they wouldn't give me an opportunity to like take it to the next level. And so this was like, I felt like one of my last opportunities to maybe capitalize, like with the Iowa State Creamery.
Yeah.
But like it was a super fun process creating it with Sarah Canova and Dr. Stephanie Clark. They did an awesome job, and my former manager Erica Andorf really like pulled it all together. So it was definitely a fun opportunity.
What do you consider yourself to be doing for work right now?
What am I doing for work?
Yeah.
Oh, I work at the Iowa State University Foundation doing fundraising development work. So I started that in August of last year.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's
August
you get obsessed enough to win an NCAA title, then you get a cushy admin job.
I don't know if it's cushy yet, but like that would be.
I mean, it sounds fun to be able to.
Yeah. I get to meet a lot of different people, and I think I grew up always loving Iowa State, right? And so I had the opportunity. I think I carried myself decently well, and in college and beyond, and so I had an opportunity to learn more about Iowa State. Because you kind of really only know your silo. And my silo was wrestling. It was athletics. And so like now this has given me an opportunity to learn more about Iowa State in like a different capacity and
Mm-hmm.
learn what other people love about Iowa State. Like I know what I love about Iowa State, but I get to learn more about what other people love about Iowa State, and why they choose to philanthropically support Iowa State through their hard-earned, money, time, energy, those things. And so it's been cool, and I definitely believe that the skill of fundraising and philanthropy is something that will serve a very important purpose for me in my life, and um, help me impact, like other people. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think you'd be perfect for that job. So you
yeah,
said you've been doing it how long?
for about a year.
About a year. Oh,
Yeah,
so you've already gotten
yeah.
into it
And
quite a
then
bit.
my former manager, business partner Erica Arendorf, and I, we started the Be Rare initiative, which was our own nonprofit, to help kids create healthy social and emotional learning patterns through creative outlets. And so we're like in a phase right now where we might be moving that over to um, something involved more in wrestling, and so we're excited about that. But it's also it's a daunting task, to create opportunities to connect with the right people, to build the right opportunities in the infrastructure to make it sustainable, is extremely uh, time consuming, energy consuming.
Hmm.
But I feel like personally, we both know that we're here for a reason, and we have to do what we can with our time, because time isn't promised.
Yeah, 100%. That's great perspective. I thought I was gonna ask you like if you're doing any like kids wrestling camps or things like that, because obviously you'd be in huge demand. There's tons of like youth wrestling programs here in the state of Iowa, and there's even non-youth like seminars you could do within say the jiu-jitsu community or other places, takedowns.
Yeah,
Show us your outside trip, you know.
I love that one. I know I love like I genuinely love doing camps. Like I just did one in Florida, um, last month in Florida, and then I did another one in Kansas, and then this month I'm doing one in Agoge, Iowa, which is on the way out to Omaha.
Okay.
And then it might not be Agoge, but it's AGO something. And then I'm also going to Portland for another camp. So I like love doing camps. I really appreciate people giving me the opportunity to work with kids,
Yeah.
and I try to be very intentional and present when I do those things, um, just because I remember how it was as a kid, uh, when you maybe meet a Kel Sanderson, or who else, like Henry Cejudo was a little bit while I was like getting older, but like when you meet the people that you're watching
Kyven
on,
Gadson,
like when you meet the people that you're watching at the
Yeah.
NCAAs, and
I know I got a little starstruck when you came in here.
you're hilarious. Like when you meet those people, like as a
As a
8 year
kid, it's a
old,
huge
yeah,
impact. Yeah.
it makes a difference, especially how they treat you. Like, do they call you by your name, or do they call you kid in a red shirt?
Mm.
Like, and so when I go to camps, I try to be very intentional about calling kids by their names, or trying to learn their names, even if it's for that 24 hours. Like, if I call a kid by their name and say, hey, you should do this on this, versus, um, I'm going to correct you, but I don't even know how to say your name.
Mm.
It just doesn't equate for me, right? And so I try to be super intentional about those things, and Hopefully the kids feel that energy and have a good time, and the parents see it and like, man, like it was different when he came. It was different than what we've seen before. Just how he ran a clinic, how he poured into the kids, how he was present. So those
Yeah,
things matter to
I
me.
can tell you really put your heart into it, and you really see, what you're doing there and making that connection. It's not just some dry technique you're showing them. It's something that they emotionally remember as an experience.
Yeah.
And looking at it from that angle, knowing their name, and it's some of those kids are like problematic because they just want to like wrestle. They're like, hey, let's get them in wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever since I didn't even walk. Like I was a problem to my parents because I would just start attacking my brother.
Yeah.
I'm just like a little
Wait,
automaton.
older or was your brother
My
older?
older brother.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't like it, and
Yeah.
then he still doesn't like it when I grab him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like they're like, okay, he's like got a lot of energy, likes to fight. That's a problematic kid. In wrestling, this is a great thing. So we have to sometimes channel all this, and a lot of times, like what you're saying is like you're putting your heart into it, and they're probably feeling that love back because they're not actually, they're not supposed to be this way. They're not supposed to be their authentic savage self that wants to go and like have some fun and
Yeah.
kind of bond in this way. By being in this combat sport. So.
And like your background, because you were a state placer at Boone, right?
Yeah.
And so your background is wrestling, and then you transitioned into jiu-jitsu. What was that transition like for you?
Hey, are we on your podcast now?
No, but like
I'm just teasing you. I just started getting asked questions. I'm just teasing you, man. No, it's yeah. I mean, I did MMA, and so that's what drew me to jiu-jitsu.
Got you.
Yeah. So, like, the wrestling skill was huge because then, I'm sitting around living in the DMAC frat house, what we called it.
Okay.
But I was going to DMAC for a year because I had like some scholarships there and I was paying it with my debit card as I went. I just was like fully independent.
Yeah.
And I was selling cell phones, and my buddy, who's crazy like me, like we bonded over it. We were best friends.
Yeah.
Comes into my cell phone store and he's like, let's go fight people in Fort Dodge. I'm like, okay. He's like, they'll give us money. I was like, what? He's like, it's legal. And I'm like, okay, even better. So we use our wrestling skills and we're taking people down. Although I threw a bunch of haymakers and this and that. Then there was a Militich guy that showed us like how to do arm bars.
Is that Pat?
No, not Pat himself. Like somebody that came from his gym.
Okay.
I don't even remember the person's name, but like just showed us arm bars and a few other things. And then we just started arm barring people in these fights and other stuff. And we weren't really formally training for it until I joined the military. Then I actually started training and like got a boxing coach. And then I did a few pro fights, but I was getting my brain scrambled in all these fights, right? Like we were constantly getting my bell rung, and I had a good chin, but that was like a problem actually. Because then I would look like a mess. They'd be like, oh, you definitely lost. I'd be like, no, I won by fucking armbar or guillotine or something, but now I have to look like this. So I loved the fact that I could still, use those. Jiu-jitsu was like magic, to me. I fell in love with it because you had wrestling where you can pin someone. Pinning somebody's great, but now you can shut their brain off from anywhere, or you can mangle their arms and legs from anywhere. I'm like, no, potentially dangerous, getting called on you. And I liked that you could just like set these traps, and it was just so sneaky. It was like chess. So it made me obsessed. Whereas wrestling to this day to me is still more like it's a martial art, but it's a very much a high intensity. The athletic side is more than the mental side. Whereas like if a 3-year-old baby knew jiu-jitsu, like that would be a problem for like a grown person almost. It's like it's a real superpower. Like I just loved that about it. And now of course we're seeing more and more of it, and I think you're going to be hopefully part of that too. But like we're doing the wrestle jitsu thing. And the wrestle jitsu thing is like fully online now. Everybody's into it, and even matches where you can't score points, because we have all kinds of rule sets all over the place, and it changes things quite a bit. But even the matches where you can't score points, like it is nice if the skill is completely even to still be on top and pinning them down like you kind of learn to do in wrestling. But
Yeah.
you're pinning somebody who, in wrestling, they'll point their most powerful things like their legs and their arms away from you and give you their back, which is the most vulnerable thing to give you,
Right.
just because of what you can and can't do. Whereas you actually have to contend with their legs and their arms. You're like, God damn. And back to the kid analogy, the reason I said that is like when we were changing our daughter's diapers, like when they were young, and if they start like just kicking on you and not wanting it to happen and shrimping out and stuff, like you're just like, this is a problem.
Yes.
Like if an AI could go into a baby's brain, or like a AI could be like a baby, and then I had to fight that AI in a cage, it would probably kill me. You think? It would just be too smart. Like, I love that intellectual side of it.
Yeah.
You're like, you went too far with the baby.
No, like
AI.
that. Like, it makes sense.
Like, what level of deficiency could the AI have before it could just still beat me mentally? It's like, I'll never solve the chess, the jiu-jitsu puzzle, I guess. So I'm just
I got you.
constantly, like, in love with other ways to shut people's brains off and stuff like that.
I got you.
Yeah. That's a long answer.
No, that's a good answer. Well, because I just right, I'm 31, and like I watched Bo Nickel fight the other night, and I've been watching him because like we trained together, you know, a little bit on Team USA and things like that, and his development is like, it's awesome. Like watching him develop, like each fight, like he's just added, I feel like something a little bit new, you know, like a different wrinkle to his game. And I think about, you know, fighting, you know, like I still feel like I'm young enough to do it. And it's just like, well, what's holding you back? Is it the fear of the unknown? Is it, you know, the scary of what can happen, the unsureness? But I feel like I need to, for myself, at some point, get in the cage, you know, and probably sooner than later, just to find out, you know, just to find out. Because it's one thing to get in a fight when you're a kid and your adrenaline gets spiked and you get emotionally hijacked. It's another thing to get in there as what I believe is like the difference between a killer and an assassin. You know, like you can get emotionally hijacked and you can kill, right? But an assassin has their emotions intact. They have their breathing under control. They're strategic and intelligent with it, and then they go execute.
Yeah,
Right.
I heard Hickson Gracie said like the foundation of his jiu-jitsu was his breathing, and so yeah, it really does evolve up from that
Yeah.
base level, being able to control yourself in a fight situation. Yeah, that's like, you must be an adrenaline junkie, or you just like a bucket list person like me, or one of the two. Like you have that perspective, like I want to get this in. Like, you know, what is it really driving it? Like, just you want to be tested even more, or what is it? You know.
I think it's one of those things where I don't want to look back and be like, that could have been something I flourished in, and I didn't give myself the opportunity to do it.
So you think you could take it far? Because I mean, obviously, if you start it, you're gonna be like, you know, Ben Askren just started as was he a national champ too?
No,
Was
he's
was he even a
Ashton
national champ?
four time finalist,
Yeah, like a
two-time national champ.
finalist. But like, then he kind of got on this track,
Olympian.
right? And
Yeah.
then other people get on this track where you're gonna have to take on way more bad motherfuckers early on in your career. You know, like you're not probably gonna start out at the Fort Dodge barroom cage fights like I was doing. You're gonna more like jump in somewhere. Like, where do you see yourself wanting to like enter? Like, already go to? You probably have to do a few like local like MCC.
Yeah.
Would you
North
do
Iowa
like
fights.
amateur, like
I
some
think
amateur North Iowa fights? Like fit a few in.
I think that's the proper way to do it.
Yeah.
Just to build the skill, build the awareness, reacclimate to that environment, that competitive environment. I feel like I already internally know that I'm capable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about, like, I always would have those feelings that would come to me, and I'd have to be aware of them and get rid of them. You know, that those feelings of fear or doubt or stress, anxiety, like they'd come to me and I'd have to do my process to get rid of them. And so I think starting amateur would be ideal. I don't know how many people would take an amateur fight versus
Against
me,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Because of the wrestling background. So been haven't been immersed or obsessive in the training environment yet. But I think that's something I want to. I'm going to seek out more.
Is it something you could see yourself losing your mind to the game, just like Conor McGregor and Vincent Van Gogh, and lose your mind to it?
No.
He has a quote where he's like,
Yeah,
"I
yeah.
lost my mind to this game,"
Yeah.
like Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of like, I feel like your personality type, if you get into something like that, and then it's like, the mindset it'll take to get all the way to like a championship,
Right.
and then you'll start to go, oh crap, and like you'll just have to decide if you're okay
With
like psychologically, can a person like you, can a champ be okay with not being the champ? Because once you get started, it might kick off a series of just unavoidable decisions where you're always predicated to picking, well, I want to be the champ.
Yeah. And that's why I go to therapy for. Like
That's what this podcast is for too, man.
Right.
Yeah. Then you don't have to necessarily get like if you're scared to go to therapy, just start a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Like no, it allows you to address certain things. So my answer to that would be,
like, do you see yourself being able to be okay with not being the champ? And if the answer is no, then like even getting started is going to kick off a whole psychological cascade. You know what I'm saying?
My priority, and like when we walked in this morning, right? Like we both have families, right? My family is my daughter, as a single parent, so it's a little bit different, and I have to be very aware of what I'm choosing because of that, because in my opinion, I need her to know that she is important. And I see the UFC fighters and then, some of the Bellator fighters and things, they bring their kids to those events. And I'm like, I don't think that's proper at some of their ages. Like at 5, I would not, the age she's at right now, I wouldn't bring her, So like, when does that change? Is it 11? Is it 12? Well, I think it depends on her, who she is who she's coming into. Can she handle it? Can she deal with it? And so like I look at those things and I analyze it, and then I just try to make the most intentional decision. And I try to play the tape to the end of like what could be the potential scenarios or outcomes, and kind of like will it or manifest it in that way. But I honestly don't know if I can be okay not being elite.
Yeah.
I think I see it, flashes of it, like in my like current job, where I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna be great at this. But then I think about the impact and things that I can make with the skills that I'm learning, not just for myself, but for Haven, for my community, for the sport of wrestling, for kids, in the community, and like how wrestling can shape lives, which and so that's something I'll have to sit with and learn more about in terms of coming to myself. But I think there is like a switch, like you said, that opens up a cascade, and I have to be very careful about that, because I'm learning that you have to basically only make time for the things that matter at the right priority level, and so right now, like, that's myself, that's Haven, and like, where do those things line up in those categories?
Yeah, I feel like I had this conversation with Karsten, who wants to do a kickboxing match. And I think it's kind of the same reason you want to do MMA. Like, you want to feel that feeling again. And if you can set your goal and your target to that, you know, and he just wants to do like one. He just wants to like have the experience of someone's trying to punch and kick him instead of just jiu-jitsu. Yeah. But him and I talked like, it was like over a year ago, and it was like, just about, he's like, why are you still competing? You know, because I'm 37.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I kind of lost that, whatever that young person fire is, where you really didn't get enough hugs or whatever the fuck it was, where you really need to be the best at everything. Like, in a very, like, you have to like go out and you have to be a savage, and you want to like kill that other person. And like, I don't have that kind of hate in my heart that I used to have that would actually fuel me, and the kind of superficial aspects of my personality, which used to fuel me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and then I told him, I go, well, I've just been enjoying my youth, looking at it from 70-year-old me's perspective. He's like, 70-year-old me's like, what the fuck? You still got some good knees, and you know, do a little more cardio, do a little more lift. Like, it's been good for me too, just to keep me in shape and stuff like that. But I have a lot of other business, entrepreneurial, other ventures and things going on, career, family. Yeah. And it's still hard for me to be like, what level can I accept of my jiu-jitsu? It's a mind fuck to try and get better and better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. There's a lot smaller field at heavyweight, and guys that are skilled at wrestling, plus being a heavyweight. Ben Askren ran into already a good career just off his wrestling, and he wasn't at the heavyweight division, which is just fewer people. Right. Would you do heavyweight or 205? I just started assuming that you do heavyweight.
I think I do.
You probably do heavyweight, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But like,
how tall are you?
True 5'11".
5'11"?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could do 205.
Yeah.
How heavy are you right now?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
Do you not want to say it on the show?
No, because like I was 3 bills.
You were 3 bills?
Yeah.
You've come down from that, right?
I think so. I've been more intentional about like what I'm putting in my body and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the heavyweight division.
Like, what do I look like I weigh?
Oh, well, I thought you were taller than 5'11", so I was going to put your weight higher. Oh. You seemed like you towered over me in some way. It's because I'm a short king.
Short king's up. Short king's up.
If I was 5'11", I'd be rounded up to 6 foot, you know?
Yeah. No, like I used to. On my license, I had 6 foot. Then I was like, you know what? Stand in your 5'11"ness. Yeah. And you stand it, and you stand in it 10 toes down.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're helping the rest of us that are in the 5.
You know, like I'm just like, yo, like I wouldn't consider myself a short king, but I'm not a tall king either, you know?
Not at all, but yeah, I'd say.
But I'm a king.
You could easily fill out. You're a king for sure, and you could easily fill out a heavyweight weight class, because even Randy Couture went up and knocked off like a lot of 205s go up and do it anyways. Yeah. Because sometimes, like I said, it's just a thinner field. Yeah. So sometimes they see an opportunity, they'll come knock the guy off at 205. Yeah. So I think that'd be a good weight class for you.
I think it'd be fun.
Weight cutting's kind of for the kids anyways too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I would be in a really good spot at probably like 250. Like, I think I could be lean and like pretty lean. Yeah. Which means about like 17% like body fat. Yeah. But still like showing nice muscles. I got big legs. My legs, my power is in my legs and hips and butt.
Yeah, so that's going to go a long way. And when you have the weight there and you turn it over on those punches, it can be a problem. Like, have you started learning stand-up yet? Or
Yeah. So I've been working with Jerome Ward. Okay. Jerome Ward's been helping me out, and he comes from a wrestling background, so just he already has some of the blueprint to making that transition and things that no one told him because he wasn't really getting guided, essentially. It's helped a ton. But obviously you have to go find out, right? Like everything looks good, right? Like when you're throwing and you're turning it over, everything looks good when you're shadow boxing.
When people start hitting you.
Yeah, when people start hitting you and you get clipped, right? Yeah. And you have to navigate in that chaos, and kind of like unclarity, right? Like when you're clipped or your days, whatever, like that's when you really find out. That's when you find out internally if you really, really want to do this, and if you're still willing to go to that place, you know?
That's the thing is, um, everybody has that, like David Goggins calls it inner little bitch,
Yeah,
but everybody has like that voice that just starts coming up with its own like narratives.
yeah,
Whether it's telling you to eat something you shouldn't eat, but it definitely, my little bitch gets loud in the middle of matches.
yeah,
And lately, it's like I'll have some just absolute savage that I'm faced off with, and they're just trying to like tear my head off, and I'm just like, that little bitch will be like, "What are you doing? Throwing down with these kids still? Like, we're this is for the birds. Like, we're done with this. Like, you're a nerd. Get back to your spreadsheet and do something else, or go do normal." Middle-aged suburban dad shit, or
yeah.
you know.
No, like that's so real. That's so real. I'm like, I wonder if like if it doesn't, if I don't tap into it, when will it leave? Because if you don't use it, right? Like we
Well,
know.
that's what competing does, is it lets me push back against that voice. So it's
Yeah.
like exercise. It's and getting the reps like you're talking about, if you can get them at the amateur level, would be great, because
Yeah.
you need to work each. Here's the parts of my warm up. Here's how I deal with stress. Here's
Right.
how I center myself and get my mind ready for. Am I this much excited and geared in, or am I like, you're finding that balance between I'm super calmed and relaxed and ready to absolutely throw down nonstop.
Right.
So you find that line over as you get back into it. But you've done some jiu-jitsu competing though too, right?
Just once.
Are you gonna keep doing any jiu-jitsu?
I would like to, but like I felt like there were some things in disarray in my like personal life.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was taking some intentional time to organize those pieces, and just be very intentional about that, because it's like I was neglecting maybe, yeah, I was neglecting my personal stuff and still like going to jujitsu practice and going to MMA. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, so then when I would come home to rest or whatever it is, it wasn't as peaceful as it needed to be, you know? So I took some time to really organize those things, like get my house organized, because I feel like I'm more at peace when that happens, and then I can be super intentional about going to practice.
Yeah, you
And
got to really get clear. That's kind of another thing about having like a life and having kids and
responsibility,
responsibilities.
yeah,
Like it, you really have to get so many other things squared away first,
yeah,
because you know that if any of those aren't balanced properly, you're gonna do a bad job at those, then do a bad job at the fight, and then you're getting
yeah,
knocked out, and your family doesn't like you, so you do
right,
you kind of get knocked out twice. So
yeah,
yeah, you have to balance all that stuff first and foremost. So it sounds like you're being very intentional about that
yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah. And then and for me, like I feel like I went through a lot of headaches or traumas in like the last course of like 2020 when the pandemic hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like went through or started the divorce process, like so went through like a major life event, went through the court process with my daughter, and then like new job, stepping away from wrestling, kind of like feeling, and then like all within that time you're dealing with injuries and all of like tore my growing off the bone,
Oh my god.
leading up to Olympic trials. So now going into Olympic trials in 21, I tore my groin in November. I feel like I was in the best shape of my life, like leaned up, like super focused, intentional about the food, was working with Econ Nutrition out of Clive, and we were very, very locked in. And then I tear my groin off the bone, and now it's like, wait, I can't train from November, December, January, February. So 4 months. I got Olympic trials April 2nd and 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting on the mat mid-February, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I got 6 weeks to get ready to be the reigning Olympic gold medalist at the weight class and everyone else. And I have to beat him after going through a whole tournament against the other best guys in the country. And then I have to beat him best 2 out of 3. So, like, mentally, it was just like, it was overwhelming. At the same time, dealing with the personal life divorce, like trying to manage that, being a father. Like, it was just like, whoosh. Kind of felt like I was like drowning in.
You really did need to get your house in order, didn't you?
Yeah.
Just kind of process and digest some of that shit.
Yeah. And so, it was just like, it was like a lot of hard things for me, like just like individually and personally. And so, I really feel like I took this last year, to explore, but try to get things in more order, like I wanted to go on a few more vacations and actually enjoy myself. I wanted to dabble in things that like painting, poetry, music, and learn more about what makes me me outside of wrestling, because wrestling has consumed a lot of my time and energy. And I wanted to dabble in jiu-jitsu and training MMA and boxing and kickboxing, Muay Thai. And I wanted to feel those things and see what like really stood out for me. And then, my theme for year 31, volume 31, episode 31, whatever you want to call it, is build back, build better. Like, all right, you went through that. You got olive oil in your house? You use olive oil?
I don't think we have olive oil.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You drink wine?
We don't drink, huh?
Oh, that's nice. That's good too. Oh, but check me out.
Don't ask me for this. Is weird. I don't know where you got on.
No, but like
we're a weird household like that.
No, I love that though. You can't get olive oil without crushing olives, right? Like you can't get wine without crushing, like grapes. And so like it was like there was this like crushing phase for me. It was like I was being like kind of like broken down. And so for me, my theme for this year is build back, build better. So when I do return to those spaces, there's a much more intentionality. There's much more intentionality, but there's also much more focus and peace internally, that I'm not doing this for outside or external praise or validation. Like I'm doing this for me, to challenge myself, to be aware of myself, instead of like, oh, this outcome is what I'm doing this for. Like, do I want this outcome? Absolutely. Do I want to be an Olympic champ in wrestling still? Absolutely. Do I want to be an MMA champ? I don't know. But like, if I'm going to do that, it's going to be an internal thing versus me wanting the external validation, praise that comes with it.
Do you think that has shifted, to more the intrinsic, or were you always on that intrinsic motivation?
The years I was my best, I was intrinsic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because you're just, it's like they say the man that loves to walk is going to go further than even somebody that runs a little bit but doesn't like it,
Yeah.
So
like like the years that I was at my best, it was like intrinsic things. And then I think just like as a senior level athlete, I think I got so caught up in I have to beat this person, instead of really delving into myself and looking at myself and my shortcomings and my flaws, and then addressing those. It was like, I have to do this to beat this person, instead of I'm doing this to grow and build myself and challenge myself to, overcome this obstacle. Like it was much more externally focused. Like, oh, if I can't beat that person, then I can't accomplish my dream. Versus if I can't conquer myself, I can't accomplish my dream. And so that's where I feel like I'm at and still building upon is like conquering.
Self mastery,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's great. And then within that space, you can decide kind of what else you want to make space for. But no matter what it is, it sounds like you're wanting to give it, your full attention and kind of be present for it.
yeah,
And kind of put some of this other stuff behind you and be present. So
yeah. And like it's like throwing your shoes on a telephone line or something, kind of like I'm not going back up to get those.
hmm
But like you're like, oh, I needed to do that, you know?
you a little bit lost me, but what you're saying is you don't need to go up to the telephone line.
Yeah, like you don't like when you throw them up there, you're like,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
You feel like you don't need to go chasing things.
yeah. Like I just need to work on me.
Yeah.
Like really, like
And any of your other goals are gonna stem from that
yeah,
anyways.
they'll come like every the affirmations, the self mastery will come if I work on me. Like I'll be able to be more intentional and present with my daughter if I work on me.
Yeah.
If I neglect me, I can't give her what energy she needs. Like what presence she needs, what love she needs. And then what comes from that, she's going to go seek it somewhere else. And that usually never ends up like good, right? So I'm trying to be very intentional about working on me, so that everything else will fall into line.
I think whether you have big goals or any kind of goals you may have, including goals of, hey, I want to change the world, and some people then go start attacking other people, and there's this like adage, like I don't know who to like attribute this to, but it's like, well, I could attribute it also to like a Michael Jackson lyric, like the man in the mirror,
Yeah.
like that's pretty much always your problem. Even if you want to really change the whole world, go home and love your family,
Yeah.
go home and eat dinner with your,
Yeah.
you're like, no, you don't understand. I need to change the whole world tomorrow. I need to freaking reverse every oppressive systems that's ever existed next weekend, so I can finally feel good about myself and this and that. But it's like, it really, no matter what your goal is and if it involves other people or not, you need to be there and be present and involved, and also of a clear mind and a clear perspective, and bringing that to the people around you, people who care about you.
Yeah.
And then I feel like some people are almost trying to do God's job because they're trying to do the other part, they're like trying to fix the whole world. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
you just have to actually get yourself right.
Yes, yeah, and I think like yeah, that's a good way to put it when you say like people are trying to do God's job. And it's like take care of yourself, work on yourself, build yourself, and the people that love you, care about you, surrounded by you, they'll benefit from that.
Mm.
And so yeah, the person who changed the world, started off by changing themselves, and that leaks into your family leaks into the community or to the school leaks into the community leaks into the
That's another cascade, right?
Yeah.
We talked about like these psychological cascades, like can people at elite level, can you see where the cascade of things would happen maybe even years in advance of you having to absolutely commit nonstop all your time to something because of this one decision here, or a mindset even here. But there's all these other cascades that happen too. Like I feel like you get pulled into the right path for you when you do more work on yourself. I guess that's what I'm also learning, in my old age. More work you do on yourself, and the more you do improve yourself, like you said, you'd go to therapy and stuff too. That's great to admit. Like more guys need to do shit like that. More guys need to work on themselves and get to the root of some of their issues.
Yeah.
Like, but what happens is you start to kind of, your community comes in, or like you build this community, then you can actually be there and help them. All of a sudden you're on the sort of timeline, or you're on the path that you are benefiting other people just by doing the things that interest you.
Yeah.
Just by you being able to be present at a wrestling camp, that kid's able to have, you're tilting the needle for them. They had a good day that day. They had a great week that week, because fucking Kyven Gadson, who I still can't believe is in my house, NCAA champion.
No, like a kid, like one of
is here.
The best compliments I got was one of the kids told me, he's like, this is a highlight of my year. And like, it's like an awesome compliment. So I come up to this kid at camp, and he goes, I was like, hey, what's your name? And he was like, I already told you it. I was just like, I'm like, what's my name? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, look, so how are you going to give me that type of energy when you don't even know not my name? I'm out here trying to remember 60 names.
Insane.
And you won't remember, you don't remember my name, but then you're like, I already told you it. So like, we kind of clicked right after that.
Yeah, you had to bust him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it was funny. And that was down in Florida, but like we clicked, and it was super exciting for me because that was something that mattered to him. And like, I think he fell in love more with wrestling that day. And then also with that, he knew that, if I ever have this opportunity, I'm going to treat kids the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was just a normal guy. Like, I am just a normal guy. But sometimes we put people on different wavelengths, right?
Well, and you and I both know that, like we said, the kids are going to do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But then he was like, oh, like, this dude's just like normal. He, like, listens to music. Like, he has a good time. Like, whatever. So those things are important. Like, and like, when you talk about the man in the mirror, like, I know when I first heard that song. And it was in 2000, either 1 or 2002,
long after it came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But I was born in 92. So,
yeah.
Or this is I don't know if that was the first time I heard it, but it's definitely, I remember this.
First time you heard it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom Lala, he wrestled at Iowa City High with my brother, and my dad was a coach there. So like, I would go down to Vets to watch the Iowa High School State Tournament every single year. And he let me see his CD player, like his Walkman. And so like, when he would be going to wrestle, like, I would be listening to his Walkman, and his Walkman would be playing Man in the Mirror. Like,
no way.
That's literally,
we just created a synchronicity on the podcast too.
Like, that's what it was. And as a kid, when you're 10, you're 9, like you said, you put these people on these like these wavelengths. When you're 8, 9, 10, 11, like, these are your heroes. So the guys that wrestled at City High, for me, because that's when I was living in Iowa City, when they wrestled, I was like all in, like locked in, big eyed. Like, when they won, I won.
Yeah.
But when they lost, it was like my heart was being ripped out, right? And it's like, you're coaching, but you're not. You're just a fan. But you're their little brother. Like, you have, 30 older brothers that treat you well because your dad's one of the coaches. And like, Tom was just like, he was super awesome to me. And then I remember Mike Somsky was one of the guys that wrestled at City High. My shoes blew out maybe the week of the state wrestling tournament. And Somsky was going to live down in Des Moines. And so he gave me some black and red Rulons to wear at the state tournament, I think, when I won my first state title. Because
what high school was it again? Where you were at?
I was at Waterloo East.
Yeah, when you actually were wrestling Waterloo East.
Yep. Yeah. And so he like gave me shoes, you know, like just like those relationships span a long time. So
Yeah.
there's so many people that like pour into your journey or have made me always, or not, maybe not always, but often feel seen and heard and valued, that those experiences, you know, made me want to, if I had the capacity or the opportunity to be that experience for someone else. And so I'm just appreciative of those people, you know, and I try to be intentional about reaching out and getting back to those, but then like when we have these conversations, it just brings back like a moment or a memory that it's like, oh, I need to reach out.
Yeah, it's like we all have these like moments of either grace that we get from other people or just these little peaks, and it can almost make up for the 100 times before that we thought the whole world had gone cold.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're younger, like you said, you're just looking for whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But in this case, man in the mirror, that's really interesting. We were just talking about that, and that's what he was cranking.
Oh yeah, I'm talking to the man in the mirror. You know, like I'd be jamming,
And then it's like it kills me when he's like, and I'm asking him to change his ways. I'm like, damn.
If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and
Make a change.
I be in there. Woo! I would be jamming up there in the second.
Yeah, you got like one glove on,
yes.
and you're just fucking.
Didn't have the gloves. Did not have the glitter gloves, but like those moments meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very profound set of lyrics.
Yes.
If you really examine just the fact that you have to plead with yourself. Who's doing the pleading in that case?
Yeah.
If you want to change, can't you just change? But change is a tough, painful thing.
It is. It's hard.
Yeah. And scary.
But necessary.
But necessary. And these conversations we have with ourselves is like an ongoing, you know, there's like a whole armada of personalities in your head that would rather you go down and do something easy, or you do this, or you go do that. And what one do you listen to? You know, I think there's always one above all else that kind of connects with who you really are, you know, and you can feel that. And I guess that's kind of what I call your golden timeline, which is kind of made like a little catch tag for this
I saw that
podcast. You know, it's like trying to help people just live their best life, because, you know, we learn in wrestling, like, okay, here's the things required to get good at wrestling. But those are the same laundry list of things to get good at anything. In fact, wrestlers end up then becoming some of the best. When I was in the military, it was always like, oh, that dude's a wrestler, that's why he's a badass. You know, like they would go into special ops, they would do all these things like no problem. And then it was like they would make for better MMA fighters, and they would just, you know, but definitely picking something to struggle on definitely seems related to living your best life. Like you can't just, Agent Smith was right in a sense. And that he said that, you know, humans needed the matrix, they needed the drama of it. But it's like, if you pick your suffering, you're going to end up having a better life than if you suffer the consequences of not having the discipline and the things you kind of knew you needed to do, you know?
Yeah. So there's a coach at Ohio State, Tom Ryan. He has a book called Chosen Suffering. I haven't read it yet. But I think it probably relates to what Agent Smith said, right? Like, you got to pick your suffering, you know? Like one of our team themes in high school was out-suffer our opponents, you know, like, and I feel like we worked really hard, you know, like I feel like I worked really hard in high school, and it was very challenging, and I think oftentimes I was misunderstood, like my love and commitment to wrestling was misunderstood, but there wasn't much that got me excited like that. I wanted to go on Jimmy Fallon because he had Tonight Dough ice cream from Ben and Jerry's, and I loved it.
There's a possibility that you don't even want to answer this question.
There's
a possibility that you're
ever seen
evading this whole part of my line of questioning.
Yeah, possibly.
Have you had enough of this podcast yet?